Well, good morning, everyone.
Wasn't sure if you were going to do an address.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll get to all of it.
Well, I've been accused of lobbing softballs many a time, so I'm going to come at you with some chin music here to start.
Nice.
Against the context, Kevin, of being a first-place team when you started this season and being a 32nd-place team at the halfway mark, would it be too extreme, or would it be accurate to call what we've seen so far an unmitigated disaster?
Well, again, certainly, you go into the season, you have obviously very high expectations. I think every team that goes in, feels they have that opportunity to, spread their wings and try to compete, for a Stanley Cup. We've said it all along. First and foremost, your first job is to, find a way to get into the playoffs, and that comes with the ability to go through a season and earn your way to that. To this point, obviously, it's been very disappointing. We have not, I think, to a man, top to bottom, and it starts with me. I think everyone would feel like there's a level of responsibility here that, we need to find a way to be better. So, again, we're at the halfway point, and your record is your record, and all you can do is control what's in front of you. And again, adversity is part of this game. It's part of life. The art in it is how you handle it. And I think that's the thing. You can choose, any different direction. But, when I woke up this morning, for me, the choice is put your head down and, find a way to keep pushing this team to get better. And I think everybody has to adopt that mentality. So, again, very disappointed. Didn't necessarily see it coming, but if you look at all the different things, it's a tough league to win in, and certainly the situation that we're in with, be it 1-goal games, be it giving, not maybe playing to the defensive structure that has become our signature for the last couple of years. All of a sudden you find yourself in this predicament.
Since returning to full health, you've basically stayed with the same lineup. When you woke up this morning, was part of that thought process that you just described, maybe, you said it comes from within, so are you looking at other areas besides the 23 players currently on this roster to try to dig out?
Well, you're always looking. You're always trying to evaluate, what options are out there, whether it's internally, whether it's externally. Again, I think if you look around the league, there's lots of teams that are fighting for their lives right now. There's teams that are below the line that like ourselves, that felt they should be above the line. There's lots of those kind of things that are ongoing. At this point in time of the season, most teams, including ourselves, you're having organizational meetings. You're talking about your own individual situation. You're talking about everyone else's situations where they may go. You're having the conversations, with other managers to see what their short-term and long-term plans are, and you deal with it accordingly. And so again, each and every day in this league is it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be a part of, and each and every day in this league brings its own different challenges.
Kevin, just to sort of piggyback off Kelly's last question there, you have a Manitoba Moose team that has a lot of, you signed some veterans this summer for depth. Obviously, there's some young prospects as well. And the team, it looks like as a whole, is playing fairly well. They've got a winning record. Can you explain why, to this point, the only promotions, I guess, from any of that depth have been injury-related, that there's been no performance-related, either promotions or demotions with this roster?
Well, again, I do think that, obviously when Pionk went down, we had that opportunity right away to call up Solomonson and give him an opportunity to, show himself. I think, the beginning of the seasons, the opportunity to play some of those younger players, presented itself. Over the course of the season, we played 40, they've played 30. There's been some ups and downs, I think, in a lot of individuals' play, and certainly for us, roster does come into play. Again, you are limited to a certain extent, with the roster as it is. We're carrying 8 defensemen. Generally not ideal, but at different points in time, obviously. Fleury being out for the extended period of time, those are things that, again, they ebb and flow. So I guess the answer to your question is that, when opportunity presented itself, we did, call up some guys, and you never know. You could be in a run of injuries here very quickly, and you just hope that the players that do get their opportunity are ready to go.
Not to belabor the point too much, but I guess some would think that having the worst record in the league would create opportunity, that the number of maybe players that haven't performed to a level that you expected, even if there's waiver situations, that would be a risk worth taking to try and jumpstart your group. So where are you at with looking internally for solutions?
Well, I think, again, those are conversations that are ongoing all the time. I think that, again, not ruling out any of those, options, as we move forward here. We'll certainly take a good look at that.
First to worst, as Kelly mentioned, there's a fan in Ottawa wearing that on his head, a paper bag on his head. Might be a fan or two just thinking of coming to the game tomorrow like that. It's a message, right? They're embarrassed. What do you say to them?
Well, again, I think that, certainly fans in our market are very, very passionate, and, that is something that we, care deeply about. And, again, this isn't something that, you plan out, and obviously sports are very unpredictable, and that's the nature of the game here right now. But, I think if you look at, the situation here, obviously, again, over the course of time, certainly we've had a lot of success, but this is a results-oriented business, and you live in the moment right now. And again, just going through the last even couple of games, it's a frustrating thing. When you're on the wrong side of a 1-goal game, there's lots of things that that creep in. But I do think, again, for us, it comes back to laying your foundation, having that structure, and being able to rely on it. We haven't necessarily relied on our structure, as our foundation here as much this year as we have, in the past. And I think that hurts you, not only, defensively, but that I think, hurts you offensively as well, because you're playing a lot in your own end, and you're expelling too much energy to try to defend as opposed to, going on the offense. But, from a fan's perspective, again, we're going to continue to, look and work, and I feel their disappointment, as much as they do.
Your coaches, of course, tried to shuffle lines and juggle things almost as much as possible. Why haven't you made any moves?
Well, again, I think that, you do look at different opportunities to see what's potentially available. Some of the things that, if you look around the league, there's been a handful of moves, from a trade perspective. Some of them involving currency that we don't have, that we've spent and move forward. I think, you have to have some sense of realism as well when, again, sitting in the situation that we're in here right now, if you look back and kind of, retrospectively look at some of the things there, we're missing some of the years of the drafts. A guy like Lucius retires. Those are things that, those are the players that you're needing to make, contributions, right now. So we've traded a lot of draft picks. We've done a lot of that, and I think we're paying a little bit of a price, for that right now.
And what do you think of the job that Scott Arniel is doing?
Well, Scott and his coaching staff, are working extremely hard. There's no ifs, ands about that. Again, I think there's a frustration level, with them as well. If you just look at the different things last year, obviously we were top of the league in power play, and I think that helped us, win a lot of the games. We're kind of middle of the pack this year on that. And if you look at the special teams, the penalty kill side, again, more to the bottom third of things. I think we're more middle of the pack, last year. Those are things that, I think, grind on them on a regular basis. I think the 5-on-5, game, if you look at it, our 5-on-5 goals for and against ratio, we were the top of the league last year, and we're more to the middle of the pack or lower end of the pack. And, again, those are the things that, it's those little things that don't push you over the top when you need that extra goal. But from a coaching perspective, again, they're trying to do everything that they can. From a management perspective, we have to look at different avenues at some point in time here to see if there is something available. But again, it's not an ideal situation, and I know they feel the same disappointment that I do.
But is he asking you to, perhaps look at bringing up someone from the Moose?
We talk about that on a regular basis, whether it's, again, bringing up someone from the Moose, or, we talk about potential, trade opportunities or, different things, like that. And, again, I think that, again, the dialogue is there all the time, and there hasn't necessarily been specific players to say, I want this guy, I want that guy. But we do have that kind of dialogue, and again, it's one of those things here too, where you play a lot in a short period of time, and things do come at you quickly here, and when the opportunity presents itself, we'll take a look at it.
When was the last time you talked to Mark Chipman about what's been happening with the team?
Every day. It's one of those things where, again, from a ownership perspective, your duty to them is large, and one thing that Mark obviously cares deeply. He's probably a bigger fan more than he is the owner, so to speak, and he feels it as well. He shares that disappointment, but again, that's sports, and that's the reality of the National Hockey League, and you can't take anything for granted, and like I say, all you can do is how you handle that adversity, and that's the art of it.
Losing Connor Hellebuck, obviously less than ideal, but it did give you an opportunity to evaluate your two goalie prospects in Milic and DiVincentis. So what were your kind of thoughts about them?
Well, again, I think goaltending is a very, very technical and tough situation, tough to evaluate type of position. So I rely, quite heavily on our goaltending coaches, Wade Flaherty and Drew McIntyre to, from their level of expertise. I think that, we made the choice this year at the beginning of the year not to sign a veteran from the outside and give the opportunity to the two young prospects, to grow. You don't know if they're going to get opportunities to come in. Obviously, DiVincentis came up but didn't get an opportunity to play. Milic, got a chance to play. I don't think we played particularly well in front of him, as a team. And I know that Arnie, when we did send, Milic back, we talked about that with him directly, and it's about experience and opportunity for those young players. And I think both of them, grew in their goaltending kind of experience. I just wish maybe we played a little bit better in front of Milic to give him a chance.
Yeah, and just in terms of the Moose, have you given it, when you think about the players you may recall, if you were going to go down that route, do you factor in whether you want to recall a veteran for a specific need, or are there prospects that you see as, earning that next opportunity?
Yeah, I think it's on a case-by-case basis. I think, there are a lot of veteran players there that have had some experience, varying degrees of experience in the National Hockey League. Every player has a unique set of circumstances, surrounding them, whether they're young players, whether they're veteran players, and again, it depends a little bit on your situation. If it's a pure injury type thing and you need that certain replacement, the big thing about, again, is you can call players up, you can put players in lineups. I think what everyone needs to kind of understand is if you take a look at our roster right now, and there's a lot of veteran players on this team. There's older veterans, but there's also younger veterans now. And over the course of their careers, a lot of these guys have had tremendous success. And over the course of this season, a lot of those guys have had some real frustration. and that's difficult. You know, as a player in the National Hockey League, the line to success is not straight, but the forgiveness or the ability to last a long time and have a consistent career, you know, that is difficult. And there's, you know, again, if you put a player in the wrong situation, and they can't achieve the success that they need to keep advancing their career, that's a very dangerous thing. And it's easy just to say, put a guy in the lineup, play him. But, you know, if you're supposed to be a top 6 player, or you know, you're supposed to play to your identity as a player, and you don't, that's a very difficult thing, you know, as an athlete and as an individual to try to push forward. So that's the adversity that I guess I talk about. You know, there's adversity with the team, there's adversity, but there's individual adversity that if you're not achieving what you think you can or feel you can, the NHL is not a very forgiving league for situations like that.
Sorry, I'm in a bad eye line here. If you go back to maybe before the trade deadline last year, a lot of the moves that you've made, Luke Shen and then Pearson, Taves, guys, you clearly were prioritizing experience, championship pedigree, and those kind of things. A lot of the guys that left are younger type veterans of what you were talking about, who've gone, a lot of maybe potential speed guys and Nick Ehlers, Mason Appleton, and guys like that. I'm interested in your evaluation of the moves that you've made and how that's affected this team's ability to play that defensive brand of hockey that you were talking about.
Well, I think defensive brand of hockey, like addressing that in particular, I think playing defensive hockey is a mindset. It's one of those things where you know, again, it's structural. It's pure hard work and doggedness. You know, that from a defensive standpoint, you know, I don't think the moves, you know, affected it, you know, negatively in other ways. You know, certainly some of the players that we brought in that you know, play a certain style. Obviously, you know, again, you're bringing those players in for that period of time and obviously moving forward. But you know, when you're sitting at the trade deadline in the situation that we were in, you know, last year, you're trying to give that group every opportunity to, you know, to try and succeed. Because I think, you know, again, as it shows here, you know, winning in this league is tough. And when you have that opportunity to try to, you know, move forward with, or try to push forward, you know, you do the things that are available for you to do. That being said, you're sitting here today with, you know, lots of capital that was, you know, expelled over the course of those years, and you know, that's why, you know, it's easy to say go all in, make those trades at the deadline, spend all that capital. When you're sitting there on June whatever, not making the pick, you feel it. When you're sitting, you know, in situations where you know, maybe like to jump in on another trade situation and you don't, you know, those are things that, you know, are difficult as a manager, you know, to weigh. And again, there's an opportunity cost with every decision that you make in the National Hockey League, and some of them, you know, obviously, you know, help push you in the right direction. You know, some of them, you know, maybe don't pan out as you do, but you have to learn from those and you move on.
I'd like to lean into that a little bit more. A fan gets to sit back and say, do something, waive this player, bring this guy up. They don't have to worry about losing that player because you bring them up too early, or making a trade and sending the wrong assets and it maybe doesn't work out. Right. So from the fans' perspective who are sitting there and they just want you to do something, maybe if you could give a peek into what you've been trying to do and how difficult it can be to do these things without, you know, when you're lost, sometimes if you keep taking the wrong turn, you just get more lost.
Well, yeah, I think, you know, I don't want to get caught in saying, you know, making trades in the National Hockey League are hard. There's trades that do happen. You know, again, the hard part about it is you having the assets that, you know, the other team desires. And then, you know, your willingness to give up the assets maybe that the other team desires. And those ebb and flow. You know, those ebb and flow with, you know, where you're at as an organization, you know, where you're at, you know, in your prospect pool, where you're at in your, know what how to say it, but like with your core, how many pieces of your core do you have? Do you have the right pieces or enough pieces to surround that core? So those are the type of decisions that maybe push you to make a trade or inhibit you in making a trade. So again, putting guys on waivers, certainly you can do different things, like that. But again, you have to feel comfortable that the corresponding decision is going to be something that makes sense and works.
I know you enough to know you're not waving the white flag on the season, but the numbers tell us it's going to be a very, very tough for you guys to make the playoffs. But sometimes you don't have to just be concerned with this year. You have to be concerned with the year after and going forward. And one of the things that you did to retain so many of your star players in your core was to promise them that you were going to do whatever you could do to compete every single year. So how does the direction that the team has turned in this year affect that future and the ability to do that maybe next year and the year after, to put these guys in a position to win a Stanley Cup year after year?
Well, again, I think it's that adversity and that that ability to be able to handle that, and the guys obviously are the ones that play the game. They're the ones that go out on the ice and lay their heart and soul each and every day. And certainly, again, my commitment to them hasn't wavered. My commitment to ownership hasn't wavered. Obviously, you'd like success to be instantaneous, and in a situation like this, all we can control right now is the next game in front of us, and I think that's got to be our mindset. Again, I don't think that group in there, feels that they're down and out of it. I think if you look at the way things have happened, even with some other teams in the National Hockey League this year, things can happen, quickly the other way as well if you get on the right track. But that being said, we can't win every single game today. We have to worry about the game, that's in front of us. As far as the future, again, that's why you're so, I guess, careful and hopeful that your younger prospects mature, and when they come and play, they're ready to compete and ready to contribute in the fashion that you need them to, moving forward.
Kevin, just jumping off what Paul was asking earlier, in this market where attendance is pretty crucial, if fans decide they don't want to come to games anymore, how much of that is on your shoulders?
Oh, it's, lots of it's on my shoulders each and every day. Again, you don't just sit there last year and win a President's Trophy and feel like, okay, put your feet up, it's all good. I think, the National Hockey League is a very, it's a very expensive league for people to come and watch, and certainly, again, the players are aware of it too. That's how their salaries are paid. It's the passion that that pays us all, so to speak. And you can never ever take anything in this game for granted, certainly not the fans, but I think if you're a true fan of any team, the ups and the downs, and and the celebrations and the heartbreaks are all part of fandom. I think that it's what makes sports the most unpredictable thing is that. So again, from a fan perspective, each and every day you try to put the team in the best situation, to succeed, and you just, again, you want to make the city proud, you want to make the fans proud, and you never take anything for granted.
Do you feel like you've done enough to give the fans that value for their dollar when they come?
Well, again, I think it has to, it's a process of how, you find ways to get better. It's not, each and every day, you don't get evaluated necessarily, daily. It's one of those things where you have to, put in the work. You have to, put in the time. Whether it's, you draft a player and you develop them, it does take periods of time. And again, some decisions that we make obviously, work. Some decisions that we make don't. But if when you don't make any decisions, that's just as fatal, as well. So, again, it's one of those things where you don't just change things overnight. You have to, keep working at it. Just like last year, though, when everything seems to be going your way, you don't just take it for granted. Like you kind of learn that that's a very special thing, and you cherish that.
Just one last one for me. This summer, one of those decisions was to bring in Jonathan Toews. What's your assessment of how that's worked out so far?
I think obviously Jonathan is, a player that's still, a work in progress for himself. I think if you look at just different things, obviously, his face-offs, he brings, tremendous, impact to us, on his face-offs. I think for him, there's a period of time for him just finding his game, finding his level of the fatigue factor, the different things like that. I think it's a tough assessment in some respects for him to come into a year this year where the frequency of games doesn't give you as much opportunity to recover after not playing for 2 years. But again, Jonathan is one of the hardest workers in the group, and we said it when we signed him. I don't think you're going to see his best at the beginning. It's as it continues to grow, and I do think that there are aspects of his game that have grown immensely from game 1 here to game 40.
More guys, we got to go to practice.
Looking at the big picture, you could argue you've had your chance, that it's time for a change. What do you say to that?
Again, I think, you look back to where we were, several years ago, and you probably could ask that same question there when, we didn't make the playoffs that season. I think
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I think you did. And, I think that, again, we took a step back. We looked around and tried to assess things internally, and we found a way to bring that structure and that ability to win those 1-goal games and that back, and probably made disbelievers believers for a period of time. I think again, if you look at this core, it's a strong core. It's a good group of players. There a lot of them are still in their prime and are going to be in their prime for a period of time. So I think that again, it's just the opportunity to find some additional players or some additional people that fit to surround that core to make it better, and we're sitting here where we are today, like you say, the record, but, again, the opportunities in this league to improve are there for us.
As you know, it's a change business. How secure do you feel?
Well, it's not so much about, again, how do you feel? It's do you still have the passion? Do you still have the willingness to put in the grind, because I think in this job here, you serve obviously at the pleasure of ownership and the ability to have that passion. If you don't have it, then you should be getting out of the game. The fire still burns very, very deeply here. I think that again, it's challenges like this in the league that you need to rise up and try and accomplish. So again, it's one of those things where they say each and every day you wake up and that you've got a challenge in front of you, and I'm up for that challenge.
Since 2017, Perfetti and Sandberg are the only 2 draft picks that are on this team currently. Given the fact that there are no prospects really kicking the door down right now, and you're an organization that prides itself on drafting and developing, is there any concern for you growing in your organization's ability to do that?
Well, again, I do think we do have some players that are, ready to kick the door down, so to speak. If you look at, a player like Solomonson, I think he's closer, obviously, than you think. But for his shoulder injury last year, he might have had, even a bigger opportunity. You look at the development of a Josh Morrissey, and how that period of time, in the American Hockey League, helped him. But even still, when he got into the National Hockey League, it took a little while for him to become Josh Morrissey. But I think, you look at two prospects that we have playing in the World Juniors right now in Boumediene and Frey, and both of them are playing, big roles, in their team's quest for the gold medal. But certainly it is a concerning thing when you've traded a bunch of draft picks, or some of the draft picks that you've made, haven't gotten to that level. That's something that, again, as an organization, they are your lifeblood, and maybe not having some guys totally ready, forced us to make some decisions in the summer that, that we did. And again, some of those things work, some of those, don't. Some of them are still a work in progress. But again, you're as a manager, I think you guys someone want to ask the question. You've got to have a panoramic type of vision as well. And I do think we were hyper focused these last bunch of years here on the now, and again, rightfully so, because that the group of guys played their way into that, and the group of guys that are playing right now will help us forge our path or make our decisions accordingly, at the right time. But that's why, again, it's the adversity that, whether you're in the American Hockey League and or whether in the National Hockey League, it's how you handle it. And when you get your opportunity, you better be ready. All right, thanks very much.